Hi everyone, so my name is Jasnoor, my pronouns are she, her. I am a master's student going into my second year in cell and systems biology here at UofT under the supervision of Dr. Brandon Walters. I did my undergrad here at UTM and I did a neuroscience specialist, a biology for health sciences major, and a psychology minor. Yeah, so COVID-19 I think had a huge impact on my undergrad journey just because it happened during my first year, second semester. And during that time, I ended up just really spending a lot of time focused on my academics, especially during the second semester, my third year. And it was also during my second semester, my third year, that I started realizing that I was getting really close to graduation. I did not have any experience, whether it be grad school or whether it be getting a job straight after undergrad. I didn't have any research experience, I didn't have any work experience. Any of the volunteer experience I did have was from high school only. I wasn't close to any professors, so even if I wanted to get like a letter of recommendation from them, I knew that it wouldn't be very strong. And so it was during my third year, second semester that I really started panicking and trying to like scour the internet for like all kinds of like opportunities that I could get involved in that were somewhat relevant to me and my program and just what I thought I might be interested in doing in the future. So during that time, I think it was campus group selections were happening. So it was like around March, April. So I applied to be a social media coordinator for PAWS, so the Psychology Association. I also really enjoyed the classes that I was taking. I was really trying to be intentional about how I was taking those classes. I was trying to make sure that I would be involved as much as possible by like raising my hand during class and like talking to the professor and just like being really involved in discussions to ensure that like the professor would really get to know me. One of those courses was Adolescence and Emerging Adulthood, and that was with Dr. Joanne Chung. I really loved that course and I really thought she was an amazing professor. She actually was recruiting participants for one of her studies, so I reached out asking if I could like work in her lab, and she actually told me that there was a work study position available, so she directed me to apply for that. I didn't think I would get the position, but I did. But because I didn't think I would get the position, I actually started looking for other opportunities to get involved on campus. So I looked towards like applying for like paid positions. The UTM Students Union was hiring for part-time staff members, so I applied and I got the position as Vice President Campus Life Associate. So it was really shaping up. I had a work study for the summer set. I had was involved with the Psychology Association. I also had the part-time role with the Students Union, but I still kind of felt like I needed to get more involved, and I really wanted to be like a well-rounded applicant for grad school or like for any kind of like job experiences in the future. That September, actually, I became like a mentor for the Arendelle Biology Society. I also was a Bio 207 FSG facilitator. I also was a Psych 100 lab assistant. And then I switched from doing a work study to an IRP, so an independent research project in that fall with Dr. Joanne Chung, looking at racialized student experiences at UTM. I was getting a lot of experience. I was also doing like a full-time course load. And that's when I started realizing I was actually taking on a lot and I couldn't really bring myself to apply for grad school. I felt way too overwhelmed to even kind of like start thinking about applying for grad school. I knew that I was really interested in doing grad school at that point because I kind of really liked research. So I kind of like focused on my fourth year, just doing well in my seminar courses and just further building those letter of recommendations. And getting closer to professors and building up my research experiences. And I applied to be Vice President Campus Life. So that's a full-time role with the Student Union for the next year because I knew that I wasn't going to apply for anything. I managed to get that position, which was really great because then for that next year, I essentially focused on grad school apps and being a great exec for the Student Union and like really ensuring that I created amazing events for students. I also tried to focus on getting more experience, so I did a biology ROP during the summer, which actually pushed back my graduation date to fall, but it was really great research that I did with Dr. Abora Resilage, where I worked with mice, and I think that's part of the reason why I was able to get into the lab I am in today. really what it came down to was my desperation to get involved, because I had like nothing on my resume. I wouldn't be like a strong applicant by any means for like grad school or just like getting a job straight after undergrad. So it was that kind of like desperation that kind of pushed me to apply for so much. What I ended up looking for was like, I really kind of focused on Instagram, because like there were a lot of our campus groups kind of like post stuff on Instagram, and like job postings and stuff can often go over there. So that's how I came to know of the elections and like the job postings and just like other opportunities to get involved, and also just reaching out to professors. If you keep trying and trying, your efforts won't go to waste, I should say, and like they'll recognize that. So I think reaching out to professors was also really helpful in terms of me getting a lot more research experience on campus. So something that Dr. Joanne Chung had said during my fourth year kind of really struck me. This was during the time where I was really nervous about applying for grad school. I didn't know if it was the right fit for me. I didn't know if I would even be accepted, really, because I didn't feel like I had a lot of like strong research experiences for grad school. And so I didn't feel like I was the greatest candidate. But what she told me was that like someone who is more privileged than me and has like less qualifications and less experiences than me would end up getting the position just because I didn't put myself out there. But they had the confidence to apply. And so I think at that moment in time, I didn't end up applying for grad school during my fourth year, mainly because I was just super overwhelmed with everything I was doing. And, that turned out to be a good decision because it led me down a path that I never would have thought of taking. And it definitely opened up other doors and opportunities and led me to learn a lot about myself that I otherwise wouldn't have known. But her words still influence me to this day because it changed how I view opportunities. It's really made me feel like whenever there's an opportunity that I feel might be slightly relevant or beneficial or helpful for me, I now just apply for it. I try not to hesitate, and I try to just go for it because, you miss 100% of shots you don't take. And if you take it, it could lead you down a completely different path. And I don't want to miss out on any sort of like opportunity or journey that it might take me on. So yeah, I really try to make sure that I go for any opportunities that might come my way, even if I feel like I might not be a good fit or there might be a better candidate out there, just because I don't want to miss anything that might be helpful for me in the future. I think one of the biggest challenges for me in terms of leadership has been letting go of this need to take on everything upon myself. I think I kind of equated being a good leader with someone who can handle it all. So whether it's from all of the small kind of like tasks and details to like the big ones, and like, making sure I respond to every message and making sure that I am like on top of everything. And it's maybe feasible for like the short term, but it's definitely not sustainable for the long term, and it often just will lead to burnout. And so I've had to learn how to delegate meaningfully and how to trust others with responsibility, because sharing the workload actually strengthens the team and it doesn't weaken my role as a leader. I think one thing that's really changed thus far is my understanding of leadership. The idea that like leadership isn't just one size fits all, but it actually really depends on the context. So in my role as like Vice President Campus Life for the UTM Students Union, I had to really, I led like large scale events and I managed volunteers, and I had to make sure like everything ran super smoothly. So my role really required me to be vocal, directive, and also to be high energy, just so that we can keep things moving. I can give like effective and clear instructions to students, and also to ensure that the entire operation is running smoothly. In contrast, like my role with the Division of Student Life as representative student co-chair or even like the Leadership Development Programming Assistant, it's really been more reflective. So it's been more about like guiding discussions, about exploring personal growth and encouraging that personal growth. And it's also been about giving space for others to be able to lead. My role has really taken on a quieter, more facilitative leadership style that focuses on listening to students, asking like thoughtful questions, and also just creating spaces for students to be able to unlock their own leadership potentials. And so these two experiences have really led me to realize that strong leadership isn't just about having like one fixed style, but it's actually about changing your style so that it adapts to whatever the situation calls for. Whether that means that I'm leading from the front or that I'm holding space in the background, all of these approaches are valid. Something that I've noticed during my time with the Division of Student Life is that we'll spend weeks prepping a schedule and mapping out, what the activities are going to be, every kind of reflective discussion we're doing, every workshop we're doing, making sure that we're including breaks and everything for students. But oftentimes, like, things will happen that are completely off schedule, things we can't even like prepare for. And so oftentimes what happens is that we have like students that will really resonate with what's being said in a workshop, or they will kind of like feel the need to kind of like share their own kind of like struggles with their leadership journey. And in those moments, it's almost like the room shifts. Students end up like agreeing with what's being said. They are nodding with what's being said. They also start to add in their own kind of like comments and start sharing their own experiences. So we end up staying in that room discussing for far longer than was originally planned within our schedule. But I've come to realize that no matter how well structured a program could be, oftentimes students just need a space where they can reflect and they can be heard and they can like share their own experiences and connect with others. So as a facilitator, it's really important for us to take a step back and let those moments really breathe, because oftentimes those moments can be far more impactful than anything we had planned within our schedule. These experiences have really reminded me that leadership isn't just about holding that mic, but also about passing it. And some of the most powerful learning actually occurs when we trust in the group and we let the wisdom that's already within the room rise to the surface. So I think research has really made me think critically, stay curious, and also changed how I approach things. I try to approach things with more of an open mind. I think I've become a lot more comfortable with not knowing, so being able to sit in uncertainty and, pushing forward past that. Oftentimes with research, things happen unexpectedly, experiments can fail, or even like data can come up that challenges what we previously had kind of assumed. So it's really just been a process of learning to stay open to other possibilities, even when they don't necessarily align with our expectations. We've also kind of like started Journal Club recently, and it's been really interesting to see how we'll all read the same paper. So my PI, myself, and undergrads, because we're all coming from very different backgrounds, right? Different research experiences and also just different lived experiences, it leads to very different perspectives within the discussion. And so I think what I've learned is that like our experiences can really shape how we interpret information, and that's kind of like affected my day-to-day life as well. I've noticed that with all of the information that's floating around on social media, I try to ensure that I pause and reflect, and I consider things from different perspectives, so I'm not just jumping to conclusions. So yeah, I think it's allowed me to think a little bit more, to be a more critical thinker, and also just to be a lot more thoughtful. I think with everything that's happening, like being able to balance like research as well as like teaching, as well as like, different leadership opportunities, and just like the work I'm doing for like grad student unions, like it's a lot, but balance is not necessarily about having things in like be perfectly equal, but it means prioritizing what matters first and what's most important. And then I try to carve spaces within those moments for myself, whether that be like going on a walk with my lab mates just to like the Davis cafeteria for 5 minutes, or whether that be like visiting friends that are on campus, or planning a hangout months in advance because like we can't get our schedules to align, like me and my friends. Whether it's any of that, like I try to just find moments for myself. I think I've started to become a lot more intentional about my time and how I spend it. Right now it's kind of a little bit easier in the sense that it's summer, so there isn't a lot of stuff that is happening currently, but I can imagine things will definitely pick up during fall, winter. So I think I'll definitely try to keep myself organized, whether that be through like Microsoft Outlook or through Google Calendar. I also really like to have like a visualization of all of my kind of deadlines coming up and just like what things I need to prioritize first. So I usually like to write it in an agenda, or if not an agenda, then I kind of write it in my notes app, just so I have like a checklist of all the things that are coming up and I can like check things off, and that's really satisfying for me. So it's a little bit of a motivation for me. So yeah, definitely not easy. I'm still learning. I think we're all learning, but we'll see how things go for fall, winter. One thing I wish that students knew about was that it becomes so much more difficult to have access to opportunities once you graduate. So when I became an alumni from UTM, I actually found it so difficult to be able to get into like research experiences or get involved in leadership programs, mainly because they just weren't catered towards me. There's something about having that student status that really just ends up opening a lot of doors. A lot of these opportunities are really catered for current students and not for alumni. So that's why I will always encourage students to take advantage of the opportunities that you have here on campus. You know, at UTM, we pay so much in terms of our tuition that we might as well take advantage of all of the resources and experiences that this university has to offer. It's never too late to start. I started being super involved in campus only in my 4th year, and that completely changed my university experience. Whether you're in your 1st year, whether you're in your 4th year, try to get involved. It's about taking that first step forward, and it will open up so many different opportunities for you in the future. And you have so much more access and potential than you might realize. One thing I'm most proud of is my time as Vice President Campus Life for the UTMSU. I think it's really changed who I am. Like, the person I am sitting here today, I wouldn't be that person if I hadn't taken on that role. If you ask people about me during my 4th year, I think people would have probably described me as like timid and shy and quiet. They're probably right to describe me as such, because after COVID, I was very shy and like awkward about socializing and interacting with others. But my role as Vice President Campus Life really pushed me out of my comfort zone and like broke me out of my shell. I'm now someone who can like talk to large groups of people with confidence, and I can be able to lead teams, and I'm able to advocate for like the student body. I came into the role with a couple of clear goals. I really wanted to ensure that students felt represented on campus, especially because during my 1st year, that's not how I felt at all. I felt very awkward and just like I wasn't comfortable being on campus. And you know, this campus is also a commuter school, so it's really hard to get involved, I think. So I just wanted to create a place where students felt like they belonged. And I did so by prioritizing having multiple like cultural events, because I felt that once you have your identity and your culture represented, that's when you can truly feel like you belong on campus. Another thing I tried to ensure to do was create events as free as possible for students, or if there was a cost, then it was reduced as possible. Like, students shouldn't have to worry about like financial barriers when attending events. I tried to make sure that we had as much food and snacks on campus for our events as possible. I even tried doing like buffet style brunches so that students didn't have to worry about their next meal. I also really just wanted to build community on campus, especially after COVID. I feel like there was a huge disconnect. And so one way I went about doing this was through hosting like markets on campus. And I felt like they were very successful. We were able to provide a platform for not just only student businesses, but also small businesses within the GTA to be able to thrive, especially after COVID. And it kind of it drove students to the student center, and it made them, I think, excited, because whenever there was a market going on, you can feel like the excitement within the air. And I think it brought really great energy on campus. The role has really taught me so much, not just about leadership, but also about building community and inclusion and about being able to support others. And it's also really taught me a lot about myself that I wouldn't have known previously. Like, I now know I love planning events, I love talking to people, and I find it fulfilling to create spaces where students are seen and they can connect with others. So it really just goes to show how much one experience can completely change your pathway in life. I think for the next chapter of my journey, I am trying to focus on just completing my master's. It will be done hopefully in April, so just trying to focus on that and wrapping up the projects that I have currently. I really do enjoy teaching, so I'm probably going to look towards doing a master's in teaching afterwards, so applying for that during this year. And yeah, just excited to see where life takes me after this degree.